is entitled The Dynasty of Amsuma, text 46. Ye vikshiptendriyadiyo devaste svaridhistitam navindanti priyam shashvat atmanam kim utapare ye vikshiptendriyadiyo devaste svaridhistitam navindanti priyam shashvat atmanam kim utapare ye vikshiptendriyadiyo devaste svaridhistitam navindanti priyam shashvat atmanam kim utapare
devaste svaridhistitam navindanti priyam shashvat atmanam kim utapare ye vikshiptendriyadiyo devaste svaridhistitam navindanti priyam shashvat atmanam kim utapare ye vikshiptendriyadiyo devaste svaridhistitam navindanti priyam shashvat atmanam kim utapare ye vikshiptendriyadiyo devaste svaridhistitam navindanti priyam shashvat atmanam kim utapare.
Word to word translation. Ye with personalities. Vikshipta indriyadiya, whose senses, mind and intelligence are always agitated because of material conditions. Deva, like the demigods. Te, such persons. Svaridhi, in the core of the heart. Stitam, situated. Na, not. Vindanti, now. Priyam, the dearmost personality of Godhead. Sasvat, constantly. Eternally. Atmanam, Supreme Personality of Godhead. Kim Uta, what to speak of. Apare, others, like human beings. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. Even though the demigods have the advantages of being situated in the higher planetary systems, their minds, senses, and intelligence are agitated by material conditions. Therefore, even such elevated persons fail to realize the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is eternally situated in the core of the heart. What then is to be said of others, such as human beings, who have fewer advantages? Please repeat the purport, translation. Even though the demigods have the advantages of being situated in the higher planetary system, their minds, senses and intelligence are agitated by material conditions. Therefore, even such elevated persons fail to realize the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is eternally situated in the core of the heart. What then is to be said of others, such as human beings, who have fewer advantages? Purport. It is a fact that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is always situated in everyone's heart. Isvara sarva bhutanam Hridaya Arjuna tistati. But because of our material anxieties, which are inevitable in this material world, we cannot understand the Supreme Lord, although He is situated so near to us. For those always agitated by material conditions, the yogic process is recommended so that one may concentrate his mind upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead within the heart. Dhyana vastita tatgatena manasa pasyantiyam yogina. Because in material conditions, the mind and senses are always agitated. By the yogic procedures like dharana, asana, and dhyana, one must quiet the mind and concentrate it upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In other words, the yogic process is a material attempt to realize the Lord, whereas bhakti, devotional service, is a spiritual process by which to realize Him. Maharaj Katfanga accepted the spiritual path, and therefore he was no longer interested in anything material. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 18:55, Bhaktyamam abhijanati. Only by devotional service can I be understood. One can understand Krishna, the Parabrahman, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, only through devotional service. The Lord never says that one can understand Him by performing mystic yoga or by philosophically speculating. Bhakti is above all such material attempts. Anya vilasita sunyam jnana karmadi anavritam. Bhakti is uncontaminated, being unalloyed even by jnana or pious activities. Om Jnana Timirandasya Sakaya Chakshurmilitam Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Om Vishnu Krishna Prasthaya Om Vishnu Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Prasthaya Nirvishesha Satyavadi Pashyata Desatahya. At the end, we'll also say something about Gopal Bhatta Goswami, because today is one of the 6 Goswamis, and today is disappearance day. So here we are at the end of this chapter, the dynasty of Amsama. And there are some particular personalities, but the dynasty of Amsaman is ending with Katvanga, who is a powerful personality, not only a great Kshatriya, but he's also a great devotee. And because of his power as a king, as a warrior, he was very strong, with a lot of power. For that reason, the demigods requested him to help them out, because they were getting into trouble, as usual. Demigods are getting into trouble with the demons. So then they asked Katvanka to help out with this army, with his fighters. And since he was known to be unconquerable, so then the demigods requested him to help, and he did help, and he did defeat the opponents, the opposition. So then the demigods naturally wanted to give him a benediction as a reciprocation for his help, for helping the demigods. But then some or other King Katvanka wanted to first know from the demigods how much time he had left in this body. And then the answer was just a moment. It might have been a moment for the demigods and a little longer for earthly beings. But in any case, his time which was left was very, very short. And so then, when he realized that he had very little time left, then he immediately decided to not care for the benediction, because the benediction was going to get, even if it was specific power, it was going to be related to this lifetime, and it was going to be a material benediction as such. So then he immediately wanted to get serious about his life, or whatever time was remaining. And we can see in Srila Prabhupada's purport of the relation to King Parikshit in the first canto, in that verse 149. It is said that Maharaj Parikshit is a great first-class devotee of the Lord, and that his birth and activities are all wonderful. Please tell us about him. This is Maitreya Rishi asking to Sudhava Swami. And then in the purpose of Prabhupada writes that the birth of Maharaj Parikshit is wonderful because in the womb of his mother he was protected by the personality of Godhead Sri Krishna. His activities are also wonderful because he chastised Kali, who was attempting to kill a cow. To kill cows means to end human civilization. He wanted to protect the cow from being killed by the great representative of sin. And then here comes the part which is relevant to the verse today. His death is also wonderful because he got previous notice of his death, which is wonderful for any mortal being. And thus he prepared himself for passing away by sitting down on the bank of the Ganges and hearing the transcendental activities of the Lord. During all the days he heard Bhagavatam. He did not take food or drink, nor did he sleep a moment. So everything about him is wonderful, and his activities are worth hearing attentively. So Sri Prabhupada is saying that his death was also wonderful because he got previous notice of his death, which is wonderful for any mortal being. And thus he prepared himself. So for a devotee to get advanced notice to leave the body is an advantage, because then one can seriously prepare himself to leave this body. Because leaving the body is a very important time. It's actually the most important time. Just like the end exam of higher studies, one has to pass, go in front of the jury, and after working hard on the thesis or on whatever one has to do in preparation, and then there is that moment where you meet the jury and where the professors are sitting together and where they make final decision if you pass the test or not. So that also is a time. It's actually our whole life is in preparation of that particular time, because the test is where will we go after this life, and where we will go after this life is not happening by accident. It's a result of the work we have done during the whole life, and especially the last moment of life. So to be warned, to be informed, you will not be able to live much longer. You only will be able to live 3, 4 months, 6 months. It's a blessing, because then one can prepare himself. Recently we had Kadambakana Swami, who informed us that he was going to visit Radha this the last time. This was like 3 weeks ago. And so then the devotees in Radha felt that they should do something. They should, get together. So then, while he was there for 4 or 5 days, and many devotees were there because he did like quite a big initiation ceremony with where more than 60 devotees received initiation. Although very few were from Belgium or Holland, but it was more like a festival, so to say. So then the devotees of Radhades one evening got together and invited Maharaj, and then he put a Vyasasana in front of the castle, a little bit like here on that platform. And then also a letter was read from the community, like a thank you letter was written from the community with so many things Maharaj did, because for rather this Maharaj was a very important person. And then so it's also some nice anecdotes and also some serious statements in the sense that, of course, when you have such a person, spiritual person, who is very much involved and regularly visits, then it's also painful to see that such a person will not be much longer there, because the doctors told him that the cancer was spread all over his body, and that he wouldn't have so much longer to live, and that it could be extended a little bit by this chemo cure, but because that also affects, the chemo cure also affects the quality of life. So he's choosing not to go for that traditional way of trying to extend life, because he already knew the cancer is spread, so he already knew it is terminal, and he would maybe be able to live a little longer, but then he doesn't want to give up the quality of life also. So then his plan was to visit some more yatras in the coming weeks, and then go in September to Vrindavan. But we used this opportunity as have a nice gathering, and and then at the end also the devotees together, thanked Maharaj, and then some flowers were thrown from the level above on him, and some prasadam distribution, some cookies to everybody. There were a few hundred devotees there. So it was very nice. But just to make the point that it is important in this verse, and also in the life of Katvanga, and in anybody's life, to be informed. If we are in the process of Krishna consciousness, if we have knowledge, then we have this possibility to prepare ourselves and become deeper in our relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that's what King Katvanga chose for, and because he could have been, benedicted and come more closer to the demigods, but he also realized that demigods are also, although maybe on a different level a little bit, but they are also struggling with their minds. They are also struggling with their senses. Their intelligence is also not pure. So he didn't choose for getting closer or in a more intense relationship with the demigods. No, he chose for stepping down from his kingdom and take the time to develop his relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And what also comes out of this purport is that it is actually amazing that the Lord is sitting within our heart, is present in our heart. So he is as close as one can be. But still, although he is as close as one can be, we are not able to fully connect with him. And so Prabhupada explains it's due to our material anxieties that we cannot understand the Lord. We are too much absorbed in this world, in my problem, in my situation, in my particular relationships, in my particular environment, in my particular life. Of course, we have all something going on. So, although the Lord is that close to us, is seated in the heart of every living entity, we are not able to strongly connect with him. Although the possibility is there in the process of Krishna consciousness, there is scope for that, but some or other the illusory energy, the energy that keeps us away from the Lord is very strong and is not easy to overcome. And our material anxieties take away that possibility too. And in the purport, Srila Prabhupada also speaks that in such situation, then people can use the yogic process but that's more to become in goodness, to come to a higher level, to control the senses to some extent. But he also explains that if we want to really connect with the Lord, then that can only be done by devotional service. Real, deep, personal connection with the Lord can only be done through the process of bhakti. Because all the other trials, they are good. They can help one bring from the mode of ignorance to the mode of passion, and from the mode of passion one can come to the mode of goodness. But if we really want to connect with the Supreme Personality of Godhead on a personal level, then that should be done through the process of bhakti. Like in the purport, Srila Prabhupada is referring to the 55th verse of the 18th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, which is entitled Perfection of Renunciation, where Lord Krishna says, one can understand me as I am, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, only by devotional service. And when one is in full consciousness of me, by such devotion, he can enter the kingdom of God. And Srila Prabhupada explains that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, and his plenary portions cannot be understood by mental speculation, nor can they be understood by the non-devotees. If anyone wants to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he has to take to pure devotional service under the guidance of a pure devotee. Otherwise, the truth of the Supreme Personality of Godhead will always be hidden. The truth is not revealed to everyone. No one can understand God simply by erudite scholarship or mental speculation. Only one who is actually engaged in Krishna consciousness and devotional service can understand what Krishna is. University degrees are not helpful. One who is fully conversant with the Krishna science becomes eligible to enter into the spiritual kingdom, the abode of Krishna. So this is the process that which was followed by King Katvanka when he realized, oh, I've only practically no time left, so I have to really and so did King Parikshit. He even stopped eating, he stopped drinking, and he didn't sleep. As soon as he got a warning, he had only some days left, and immediately he realized this is now the time for me to fully absorb myself in Krishna consciousness, and he was fully hearing from Sukadev Goswami, and he was absorbed in that. He asked questions, and he stopped eating, drinking, and sleeping for the remaining time, which then obviously made him famous for forever, because he had made the right choice to absorb himself in Krishna consciousness. So maybe a few words on Sri Gopal Bhatta Goswami. So he's one of the younger members of the 6 Goswamis. He was only 8 years old when Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu met him. Because Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he came to Jagannath Puri, quite soon after, he went to a tour throughout south of India, tour of India basically, and when he went to South India, then he took darshan of the darshan of Lord Ranganath. The Ranga Kshetra is situated between 2 rivers in the south of India. It's more towards the east coast, on the level of Coimbatore. And so when Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came there, then he was fully ecstatic, and the head of the temple was Venkata Bhatta, was the father of Gopal Bhatta. And so seeing Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Venkata Bhatta, and his brothers also, because his brothers also are quite famous. One brother is Prabhudananda Goswami, and the other one is Tirumala Bhatta. So they were all very impressed with Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's ecstatic symptoms when he was having kirtan in front of the Lord. Because this is a famous temple, it's visited by millions of people. So they had to make space for him because he was so dancing so ecstatically. So they had to push the people a little side to give him room to express his devotion for Lord Ranganath. And then after that, Sri Venkata Bhatta, he invited him in his house. And it was just at the time that Chaturmasa started, the 4 months started. And so then Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu stayed 4 months in his house. And then the child of Venkata Bhatta, which is then later Gopal Bhatta Goswami, at the age of 8, Lord Chaitanya, when he came in his house, he took Gopal Bhatta Goswami, put him on his lap, and he also gave him, in this period that he stayed in their house for months, he gave him a lot of association. He gave him also his remnants from his prasad. It is said he prepared him to become an acharya. So then when Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to leave, then Gopal, that was his name at that time, Gopal, he was very much sad and he almost fainted from the thought that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was going to leave. I'm not going to see him anymore. So then he felt at his lotus feet and he asked him to stay longer. And then Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu stayed a few days more, just to, because he was pleading to have him a little longer. So then Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu stayed a few days more, but then he left anyway. And he gave him the instruction that in the future you should go to Vrindavan. You should serve under the care of Rupa and Sanatana Goswami. And then, but for now, for the time being, your parents are getting old, so you should study under Prabhupada Goswami, and you should take care of your parents. So then, that's what he did. And then in 1533, which was the year that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu left, but a few months before that he left, he went to Rupa Sanatana Goswami, and when Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu heard the news that Gopal Bhatta Goswami had reached Rupa Sanatana Goswami, then he sent him his little wooden bench on which he was sitting, and some other items, personal items that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave to him. Gopal Bhatta Goswami also, the Lord told him within a dream or something, to go to the north and where is that place where the Shalakam Shilas are?
Gandaki. Kaligandaki.
Gandaki. Okay. Anyway, the place in the north, then he went to that according to what he was predicted in his dream. And then he was taking water there to drink, and then his lota was filled up with Shalakam Shilas. And then to make it short, then one of the Shalakam Shilas later became a deity, transformed into the deity which is now the famous deity of Radharaman. Brahman deity, which is very beautiful, very, very detailed, most detailed deity in its finishing. So he manifested to him. And the reason why manifested, which is explained, is because somebody wanted to give him clothing for his deities, but he says, yeah, better you give the clothing to somebody else, because I only have Shalabam Shilas. So then some or other overnight, one of his Shalabam Shilas became Radharaman. The Damodar Shila, the Damodar Shila turned into, because the Shilas have their name, so the Damodar Shila turned into Radharama. Shri Gopal Bhatta Goswami ki Jai, Prabhupada ki Jai. Any comments or any point? Because we have a meeting at 10 o'clock today for some devotees.
I have a question. What do you do with the bodies whenever you leave in your body? Do you have a special ceremony? Do you bury the bodies? Do you have a special thing that you're doing with the body when the person is leaving it?
Yeah, if we are fortunate, then we can have kirtan if somebody is leaving the body. There are several occasions where devotees leave their bodies surrounded by devotees in kirtan. It's a very auspicious way of leaving the body. Actually, Prabhupada himself gave the example of leaving the body in a very exemplary way, surrounded by so many devotees. Too many to enter into the room. Devotees were outside, inside, packed. But there is also, like in Radhadas, we have a few, maybe two situations where devotees left the body surrounded by devotees in kirtan. And then after then also when they leave body there is a ceremony and the burning of the body and the ashes are deposited in a holy place, holy river, in the Yamuna river in Vrindavan or in the Ganga in Mayapur. Like that.
We don't burn the sannyas body.
Yeah. When although there is a whole discussion on that, but we like Srila Prabhupada's body was not burned. Srila Prabhupada was put in the body was put into surrounded by maha flowers and salt. So it was interred, and on top of that was built the temple, which we call samadhi. And in this way, for special personalities, in most cases sannyasis, they were in the renounced order. Then when they leave the body, then in particular cases, then samadhi is built. Their body is not, they are put into yoga position in the earth, and then like that, and then a shrine is built over there, over the place where they are sitting.
Because it's a holy body.
What?
Yeah. Because it's a holy body. It's not your material,
because
it's like a spiritual
his body, by serving the Lord, one